Welcome into the Ravens Rundown, powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Appreciate you joining us. On today's show, we will look at the Ravens winners and losers from last night's preseason victory, the 21st in a row for the Ravens as they took down the Tennessee Titans 23-10. We'll tell you who stood out, who stepped up to the plate in the first preseason game of the year, and who disappointed at this point. Let's go ahead and get started with the good stuff. The winners. We begin with Juwan James, the offensive tackle for the Baltimore Ravens that had to step in the place of Ronnie Stanley. The hope is for the Ravens that Ronnie Stanley will be able to return week one. But if that doesn't happen, if he's not quite ready to go, John Harbaugh has told Juwan James to be ready to step in place. Juwan James has not played a regular season game since 2019, and in camp, there was a lot of skeptical reports about how he had looked. But in the first preseason game last night, he stepped up. He answered the call and played really well. Didn't allow any sacks, protected the blind side really well. I was impressed. And the talk of the internet was about Juwan James and what he did at that left tackle spot. So now, some confidence for Juwan James if he has to play and step in for Ronnie Stanley. A good first outing in that first preseason game. Granted, they went up against a decent number of twos on the other side for Tennessee, with this being a preseason game, but nonetheless, big confidence earned after that performance from Juwan James. So with that said, our pinned comment today: are you confident in the Ravens offensive line? Not only with Ronnie Stanley and his situation, but then you have Tyler Linderbaum, of course, is out for a little while as well. I think last night was a step in the right direction, but I still need to see a little bit more. You tell me, though, in the comment section. Our pinned comment today, you might get an ad break. If you do so, take advantage of it. Let me know in the comment section if you are confident in the Ravens offensive line. Y for yes, in for no. Let's talk about Tyler Huntley now. Tyler Huntley getting the start at quarterback. Lamar Jackson had the night off last night, and he really had this offense clicking for the Ravens. And not only was he accurate as a passer, going 16 of 18 for 109 yards and 1 touchdown, but he was effective on the ground as well with 3 carries for 17 yards, and the offense had a flow to it. And look, I don't know if Lamar Jackson's going to get hurt at some point this year, or if another team is going to lose their starting quarterback this year and maybe make a significant offer for Tyler Huntley at some point. But nonetheless, he proved that he has some value to this Ravens team. Whether it's as a backup or a potential trade piece down the road, Tyler Huntley had a good night and was effective and efficient in this offense. Excited to see what he can do in the remaining preseason games. Few more names for you. Let's talk about Isaiah Likely now, the rookie tight end out of Coastal Carolina. Granted, there were a couple penalties from Isaiah Likely, but I think the good outweighed the bad as he was just phenomenal. And you look at this receiving corps, sure, there's a lot of question marks with the Ravens receivers, and you didn't have Charlie Kolar either as he's recovering from that sports hernia surgery. But Isaiah Likely, who was picked in the same round as Charlie Kolar, really looked good. And we've heard the comparisons. People say that he's similar to Mark Andrews, and he had the Madden joystick going. I mean, it was shake and bake action from Isaiah Likely. You love to see that type of movement from a tight end. I loved it from Likely, and he was fun to watch. A really good debut for him. Mike Davis put on the Ravens uniform for the very first time last night as a member of this franchise, and the Ravens brought him over from the Atlanta Falcons. No Gus Edwards, no J.K. Dobbins last night, and Mike Davis gets the start. And Davis played well. Granted, it was just 5 carries, but he did finish off that touchdown drive after the Kyle Hamilton fumble recovery and was really good. I liked what I saw from Mike Davis. Look, the Ravens, if they have to turn to Mike Davis or Justice Hill, who also played fairly well as well, they have other options to work with. The Ravens, even if the worst of the worst happens and they have the injuries like they did last year at that running back position, they have options now that they did not have last year, Mike Davis being one of those. I liked what I saw from him. We're covering the Ravens here on the Ravens Rundown each and every day with continuing coverage of your favorite team throughout the preseason and training camp, counting you down to kickoff for that Week 1 matchup with the New York Jets each and every day. Subscribe to the channel now so you never miss a moment of what's happening with your team here on the Ravens Rundown. We're not only covering your team, we're having a lot of fun doing it too. If anything, you got to subscribe to have a good time cheering on your Baltimore Ravens by joining us each and every day on the channel. Subscribe now, youtube.com/RavensTV. Join the Noti Gang. Turn on those notifications as well so you never miss a moment. It's youtube.com/RavensTV. Couple more winners for you. Let's talk about Kyle Hamilton. You can't mention about guys having a big night without talking about Kyle Hamilton. And, I mean, look, for a guy that was picked 14th overall, it just blows my mind that he fell that far when he was, I think, the most talented player in last year's draft. And to get that fumble recovery, to make that statement right away, to carry himself looking like a veteran on the field, I loved it from Kyle Hamilton. And his best football is still in front of him. We know that safety position is ultra competitive with guys like Chuck Clark and Marcus Williams and Tony Jefferson there. But Kyle Hamilton had his night last night, and right away, we didn't have to wait very long for him to get involved and look really good. One more winner for you, Shamar Bridges, the wide receiver from Division II Fort Valley State College, pulled off the "you got mossed" play. I mean, it was unbelievable. I was so impressed with what he was able to do. 4 catches, 62 yards, and a touchdown grab. Watch out, folks. Look, the Ravens, it's clear they need receivers. And when you talk about the injuries to Tylan Wallace and James Prochet, there's going to be other guys that need to step up. And Shamar Bridges said, call me. I'm ready to go. I mean, he was something else. I mean, the athleticism, the reach, that 6'4", 207 frame was nothing to joke about. I mean, he was legit. I loved what I saw from him. So we'll get to the losers in just one second, but name a winner from the Ravens' first preseason game. Whether it was somebody we mentioned or somebody we did not mention. Who comes to mind? Let me know in the comment section below a winner for the Ravens' first preseason matchup. Let's get to the losers now. Got to talk about Tylan Wallace. Suffered the minor knee sprain, left the game. And not only did we see Tylan Wallace just not do anything productive and go down with that injury, but the fact that other young receivers that are competing for the same spot that he holds right now, that number 4 receiver spot, played so well, all of that just was a bad night for Tylan Wallace. I don't know if last night could have gone any worse for Tylan Wallace in all reality. I like Tylan Wallace. I think he's got a lot of potential, but those guys really pushed, I think, on Tylan Wallace here. I think that may have been a wake-up call for him necessarily based on what those other guys did and him dealing with that injury as well. Another name, Jeremiah Moon, the outside linebacker, had a really bad roughing the passer penalty in that game last night. 1 tackle. He's trying to make this team. You can't have costly mistakes like that. That doesn't look good. It was real obvious. There was no debating the officials about it. It was bad on Jeremiah Moon's part. And then there's Kevon Seymour, the cornerback that got burned on a long pass by Malik Willis. And Malik Willis, this was the first time he's ever played an NFL game, the 3rd-round pick out of Liberty. And much was hyped about this game, about Malik Willis and seeing what he could do. Malik looked super athletic, and he was able to throw the ball pretty well. And part of it was not just because Willis found the open receiver, but because Seymour didn't do his job, because he didn't cover his man. He looked so lost out there. It was bad. It was embarrassing on his part. I mean, it just – there was no excuse for that type of blown coverage in that situation for him. So with that, those are my losers. Name a loser from the Ravens' first preseason game in the comments section. Who comes to mind of this game last night? I know it's kind of hard to pick when it comes to losers because the team as a whole played so well, dominating, 23-10, playing well on both sides of the ball. But if you had to name a loser, who would it be? Let me know in the comments section below. We have a lot of fun here on Ravens Rundown, but that's only part of the party. The party continues over on Twitter as well. I'm over there at Tyler Jones Live talking about the Ravens and the National Football League. Give me a follow there. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll see you next time here on the Ravens Rundown. Thanks for joining us.